What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Happy Monday, everybody. Second video of the day. Okay, so after the Wall Street Journal article, I started to realize that there was a pattern going on. And I don't know if you guys noticed it too, but it's pretty evident. Pretty much every single story that has come out about the topic, the Jake Barber story, the Harold Malmgren story, the alleged columns beneath the Khafra pyramid story, Matthew Brown's testimony, pretty much every single one has already had a very strong and very potent response, or you could call it a debunk. When it comes to the Harold Malmgren story, a gentleman by the name of Douglas Dean Johnson has already posted two articles against Harold Malmgren's testimony. There are very comprehensive and very detailed responses that already have their own counters from the people that are involved in the investigations of this. For example, Australian former Intel analyst Geoff Cruikshank already posted a couple of responses on his LinkedIn account. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. We know that Jimmy from UAP Files also posted a rebuttal to the Malmgren story. And after Matthew Brown came out, the Wall Street Journal came out with this story against Robert Salas. Mr. Salas actually posted the rebuttal to the Wall Street Journal and said that he would ask them to post that as well. I don't know if it's going to happen, but he also confirmed he was at the Good Trouble show with Matt Ford after the editorial that Matt Ford did, and he gave us more details. He told us that the editor of the article, the man, because it's a man and a woman, interviewed him, but he only asked him like really basic questions about his story. And then he came out with that story that has no cited sources at all. And some of the things that this person is talking about that wrote the story don't even make sense. So there's that. The pattern that I tell you about has to do with this clip that I'm going to show you. And this is one of my first major interviews on the channel, I would say, because Danny Sheehan is one of the most known faces within the disclosure movement. And he has a long history as an attorney, even from Iran-Contra and from Watergate. And he has a long history. And he spoke to me at the beginning of this channel's English content, one of the first interviews, and he spoke to me about Project Mockingbird. Listen to the question that I posed to him so you can see what I mean. Do you think Operation Mockingbird, for example, didn't actually end and they just changed the name? What do you do when that comes to you? How do you identify what's misinformation and disinformation?
Well, that's a great question, but they did not stop the Project Mockingbird. The fact that it got revealed, and that they during the church committee hearings back in 75 and 76, at that time they identified 42 specific, deeply embedded CIA national security people inside the major media, and that there's still those kind of people there. They have them now as their national security reporters. They call them that. They've got an official name for them, and that gives them liaison into the national security information, so that they can get good sources. But the cost of that compromise is that they agree not to reveal certain kind of things. So they're participating in maintaining the national security state.
Danny Sheehan, well, he knows about this stuff for sure because he's a lawyer and he's been deeply embedded into the conversation for decades now. And this really hits home for me right now because of everything that's happening. There's people from all over the media, not just mainstream media, also independent journalists and journalists who have, in some cases, even conflicts of interest. Like, for example, Ken Klippenstein, whose father, if you don't know, works at the Department of Energy. That is real. Look it up. You can Google it and find it really easily. So, and there are a lot of different people who have ties like these, and they're not really talked about, which I don't understand. So you see different types of rebuttals and debunking and stigmatization from all sides of all of these stories. And I wonder if this is the new Mockingbird in action, if that's what it's happening. And as I was waiting for the people that I listen to the most generally, because they have a good track record, it comes down to that. And in this topic, there are a number of people that have, in my opinion, a good track record when it comes to reporting and to trying to remain unbiased. And obviously, one of the favorites of the channel is George Knapp, who, if it wasn't for him, Bob Lazar wouldn't have come forward the way he did. If it wasn't for him, Area 51 wouldn't be known, you know? So George Knapp has remained in the collective imaginarium when it comes to UFO topic for 40 plus years already. So I was kind of waiting for him to probably say something. They are going to talk a lot about this latest effort from the media to discredit everything that's been said so far, because they're going to release a weaponized episode on Tuesday. There was a recent interaction between Knapp, Corbell, and Mr. Chris Cuomo from News Nation. And Cuomo, for the first time, got to talk to George. He was really excited. And I have a couple of quotes from George that I want you to listen, just so you can tell the most balanced kind of opinion on this and views and analysis, I think, almost always come from George. So I'm going to show you some of what I mean. Shout out to UAP James for clipping this. He clipped this. Shout out UAP James.
George, when you look at this issue as a function of transparency, you say the people who are the keepers of the secrets, these days they use the word deep state. In these years of researching this, what is your best reckoning of who we're up against and what they're about?
It's a combination of Department of Defense folks, intelligence agencies, defense contractors. I think it's probably a small group of the people that really know what's going on. And even they probably don't know the big picture. You know, Jeremy and I have been pretty far up the food chain over the years, me even longer than him. And I have never met anyone who really knows the true story. I've run into a lot of people whose job it is to confuse the public, to muddy the waters, to slip out propaganda, as we've seen over the past couple of days and over many years. You know, I don't know what the big answers are. Like you, Chris, I'm not expecting to meet aliens. I don't believe in aliens. I was attracted to this story because of the paper trail of documents, memos, reports that were shared within the Department of Defense and CIA and other agencies before the Freedom of Information Act became the law. And in those reports, it shows they were saying, hey, this is real. It's not imaginary. It's not fictitious. It's real. It's not us. It's from somewhere else. We need to figure it out because there are national security issues involved. 1953, the Robertson panel gets together for CIA. They spend 6 hours over 2 days looking at UFO evidence, and they decide UFOs are not a threat to national security, but the reporting of UFOs is a threat. And we need to strip it of its aura of mystery. We need to debunk it. We need to use ridicule. And that's pretty much been the policy of the U.S. government ever since. And it ticks me off. It's what got me hooked on the topic. They're telling the public one thing. They're saying something behind closed doors to themselves that is far different. And it makes me angry.
Same, George. Same. To me, it has to do with that because of the media analysis background that I do have. It's pretty evident that some certain tactics are used when they're trying to debunk. They get directly to ad hominem attacks. They get the lowest hanging fruit of discrediting and insults. And some of the explanations, for example, in the Wall Street Journal, they just said stuff out of their ass or invented something without providing the sources of their material. And they expect people to believe somebody like Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who has been found not being truthful in the past. Obviously, that's a really weak attempt at discrediting, like George said, and they've been doing it for decades now. And George has this phrase that he mentioned in this report earlier. I'm not going to play it, but he did say, and he keeps saying, and I think he's right, that the US government and whoever is responsible for the secrecy are way better at their job than we are at ours. And that's true. Although I think that recently there's been more presence, and thanks to the internet, of people who are researching in their own rights. And I think there is a grassroots effort to try and find out what's going on. And I like this grassroots effort because it's people from all walks of life. It's people who are both skeptical and believe that something is there, but they're trying to find out what's going on. And they're open-minded. They're not like the classic compromised skeptic or debunker who panders to the establishment. That's what those are, many of them. Not naming any names. You guys can make your own assumptions. That's partly why I trust George, because he has a balanced analysis of what's going on. And the reason he decided to keep looking into this, and the reason he decided to dedicate a big chunk of his life to this, is because he realized that they were hiding something. I mean, I don't know, for whoever wants to keep discrediting people like George, I just don't see a reason why he would lie about something for the majority of his life just because of what. But yeah, the last part I'm going to show you is another part of this same interview where George is asked, what would he ask about this topic or these so-called NHI or whatever they are. We know that George and Jeremy already mentioned the others after that interview with Matthew Brown. That gets into a lot of occult stuff and hermeticism and stuff like that that can often be confused. So whenever I see Brown coming forward again, or if I ever get to talk to George and Jeremy, I would like to ask them what they think about that whole occultism kind of area of this topic, because it is controversial. There's a lot of people that whenever they see something along those lines, rituals and all that stuff, they don't react well. So I'd like to know their opinion. But here's the part that I wanted to show you of these questions that are asked to George, and see what he responds.
What would be the three things that you would want answers to?
I'd like to know ultimately where they're from and what their intentions are regarding us. Are they interested in us? Are they where they're from? Are they interested in us or the planet more than us? Number two is, why the secrecy? I mean, I could see it in 1947. We just come out of World War II. The world's a mess. Do you need to share that with the public and tell them there's another intelligence more advanced than us? Well, why the secrecy now, though? Number three, if the technology is being tested in secret in some hangar somewhere, what do we need to get it done? Can we ever master it? And are the national security implications legit? Because there is a race for this technology. Us, the Russians, the Chinese, maybe the Israelis. How do we ever separate the UFO technology from national security concerns that would allow some president to step up to a microphone and say, we've been lying to you, here's the truth?
Shout out to UAP James. And yeah, I would have similar questions if I'm honest with you. I often joke that I would like to know if aliens know any fart jokes, but because I just want to know, genuinely want to know if they do have a sense of humor or what kind of sense of humor they would have. But yeah, George obviously is asking the most important questions that I do agree I would ask something along those lines too. But yeah, I think that's the best approach to this and the best type of reaction to the debunks and everything that's going on, and this emerging pattern that I see of trying to debunk all the biggest stories. I think it's similar to what George did. I just think that the best approach is to tackle the ideas rather than the players, if you get my drift. But that's just me. And another part that I want to connect is that I want to show you a video where they spoke for a few seconds about something that they may be showing or they might get their hands on and show it soon. And I've heard some rumblings about this. I'm not going to say much because I haven't heard much. Just know that it's possible that soon we will see something from them in terms of video. And I know with the latest AI, it's almost impossible for anybody to believe any type of video or image. But I still want to mention that we might get something soon, regardless, from these two. So here it is.
Types of visual evidence. I think we're going to see some footage in the future from me and George that we've obtained and are making sure it's safe to release, that is shocking. It's different than a lot of what you've seen before, the shapes.
Yeah. I mean, your experience.
So I don't know. I don't know if tomorrow we could see something during Tuesday's episode, but I'd be on the lookout for something new from them. Whether you believe it's real or not, that's a different issue. I'm just letting you know. We might get something soon. Hopefully, maybe not. Yeah, that sounds exciting. Let's see if it's any different from everything they've shown before, because most of the people don't understand the multi-censored kind of and multi-context kind of sightings and material. And the majority that don't, whenever they see something like the jellyfish or the ones from the Omaha, the triangles that people say it's Boca, if they see something like that again, I already know the reaction that's gonna come afterwards. But if we see something a little more detailed, and even, I don't know, from a regular camera and during the daylight or something, that would be interesting. So let's see what happens. Let me know what you think about the overall pattern that I kind of identified. Do you see the same thing? What do you think about George Knapp's words and about the idea that Project Mockingbird, we're looking at it, but it's under a different name? What do you think about that? What Danny Sheehan told me about? Let me know in the comments. And also tell me, what would you like to know if we ever made any type of contact with whatever this is? What would you ask them? I would love to know. Let me know in the comments. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That only takes you a few seconds. It's free, and it is what helps us the most. So thank you. If you want to support the channel in any other way, however, we have a few links down there in the description. You can become a member on YouTube, or you can support us through KGRA. If you're on X, I just released the John Burroughs and Toby Martinez interview on X, on the KGRA feed, just yesterday. So you might want to check that out. But that's it for me today on this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, stay curious and inquisitive, like George and Jeremy, always. Bye.